Today on What It's Like, check this out. This is rarer than hen's teeth. This is a 1956 Hudson cross-country wagon. They only made 20,000 Hudsons in 1956. I'm not exactly sure how many were wagons, but probably not a whole lot. That's all the Hudson makes. That's the Wasp, the Hornet, the cross-country. Metropolitans were named Hudsons in 1956. Just check this out. This is a time capsule. This is the brochure that the dealerships gave out. Notice the wood grain, that was an option. This is the hardtop model. Notice there's no pillars in the center. Feel free to slow this down and read it. I couldn't get the crop right. That's why you could see a little bit of desk there. This next slide's going to show you, this is what the tricolored looked like. It had red, black, and white. You could choose any 3 colors you wanted to. There was 13 different colors to choose from. If you're new to the channel, I'd personally like to invite you to hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. Like and share as well. Please and thank you. It means the world to me. Now back to the show.
Okay, so we have to take a stroll through history to see where these names originated from. Warning, brief history lesson coming, but I promise you, it'll all be worth it, and it'll all tie everything together in the end. The name Hudson comes from Joseph L. Hudson, who was a Detroit department store entrepreneur. He was the founder of Hudson Department Stores. That's where the Hudson name came from, but Joseph didn't run the Hudson Motor Car Company. The Hudson Motor Car Company was formed when 8 Detroit businessmen went together in 1909. Their vision was to produce a car for the world that would sell for less than $1,000, which by 2020 equivalent was $28,804. They went on to make great cars like the Essex, Terraplane, and mostly remembered the Hornet model, which was featured in Disney's Pixar's Cars. Doc is a Hudson Hornet. Okay, now we must talk about Nash. In 1916, former General Motors president Charles W. Nash acquired the Thomas Jeffrey Company. Best known automobile was the Rambler, which started production in 1902. In 1924, Nash absorbed Lafayette, which produced large and powerful, very expensive luxury cars that didn't sell very well. So Nash took over. And from 1937 to 1940, the Nash Lafayette was the lowest price Nash. Well, wasn't that just a kick in the head? Nash gets controlling interest in Calvinator. Calvinator at the time was the leading manufacturer of high-end kitchen appliances and refrigerators. The company was known as Nash Calvinator after 1937, and it was the largest merger of companies of different industries up until that point. This is also worth mentioning. I'm sorry, this is getting it's really starting this kind of spider web and go off into different tangents, but I promise you, this will all tie together in the end. But the last tangent, 1938, Nash introduced an option heating and ventilating system. This was the first hot water in-car heater to draw fresh air from outside of the car, and it started the trend. It's what every modern vehicle uses today. In 1954, Nash acquired Hudson as a friendly merger to form American Motors, or AMC for short. By 1957, George W. Robney was at the helm at AMC and decided to retire the name plates of both Hudson and Nash and go completely in on Rambler and Metro. And that ties right into this 56 wagon. Everywhere on this wagon says Rambler or Rambler Cross Country or just Cross Country because it's essentially just a rebadged Nash Cross Country Rambler. There's only one place on the whole entire car that says Hudson, and it's right on the hood. The hubcaps have H's, and the gas tank will have an H if it's a Hudson, or an N if it's a Nash, but those are the only differences between these vehicles. Besides that, and some paint colors. Because the Nash Rambler Cross Country and the Hudson Rambler Cross Country are practically identical, this is almost like a twofer. This review could go for a Nash Rambler Cross Country or a Hudson Rambler Cross Country because both cars are identical. It's almost like the Scion FRS or the Subaru BRZ of its day. As the car's rotating, you could kind of see a little bit of teal up there by the egg crate grill. The owner told me that it was common practice back in the day that if they had a car on their lot, evidently they had a teal one, but the customer wanted theirs in bronze, they just took the teal one and oversprayed it with the bronze. That's the only thing that makes sense because this vehicle's never been in an accident. Base price when new was $2,136. The curb weight is 3,110 pounds. This thing weighs almost 2 tons and it's a unibody construction, which we'll talk about later. Production numbers for this vehicle are very hard to find. I found that they only made 20,000 Hudson models total. Like that was the Wasp, the Hornet, the Metropolitan, the Cross Country. I was able to find that they made a total of 21,554 cross country production across 3 trims. That includes the Hudson brand and the Nash brand. They had 3 trim levels. Super was the base, deluxe, and then custom was the top of the heap as far as trims go. But they also made a hard top body design which had no center pillar. It was pillarless, and they made station wagons and sedans like that. So that production number was for all of it. The sedans, the wagons, the hard tops, sedans, and wagons as well. So let's talk optional equipment. You could get power steering, 2-tone and tri-tone exterior paint colors, Continental spare tire kit, the weather eye, which ties in with the whole Calvinator reference because the weather eye was Nash's, now AMC, heating and air conditioning unit, which drawed air from outside and heated it or cooled it, whatever you wanted to do with it. Same exact technology we use today, found in this Rambler wagon back in the day. Also worth mentioning that power brakes came standard on this model. This was the very first year for the 12-volt system, which is a huge deal because if you're in all the old cars, a lot of times like pre-56, most everything is 6-volt. So that's a huge thing. You can't put a 12-volt battery in a 6-volt car. It won't work out good. They don't jive. This vent right underneath the windshield is where all the fresh air goes for the weather eye, heating and air conditioning system. So let's talk about power. So powering this behemoth of a vehicle is a 196 cubic inch displacement inline 6. This engine is also known as the Typhoon Straight 6. AMC took the old Nash 196 flathead 6 model and converted it to overhead valves. So they just took the same engine and they put overhead valve train inside of it. Most companies, if they're going to do that, they just make a whole new engine. Not AMC. They were very conservative. They didn't have a whole lot of money, so they converted what they already had. AMC claimed 33% power improvement over the flathead version. This is not a powerhouse, so to speak. It makes 120 brake horsepower at 4,200 RPMs, which is pretty peppy for a figure for the time. But this engine may not be fast. I think 0 to 60s in 16.8 seconds. That wasn't their claim to fame. Their claim to fame was the alleged 32 miles per gallon on the highway that you could achieve with this engine. If you have one of these, please, in the comment section below, talk about your experience. I would love to know if this thing got 32 miles to the gallon, because 32 miles to the gallon now is a pretty good figure. Even back then, that was an excellent figure. People weren't thinking about gas mileage. There was also mention of a 250 cubic inch displacement V8 producing 190 horsepower, but I think that was only available on the sedan models. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any wagons with the 250 V8. The 327 V8 came later, and they were in some wagons. Let's talk about transmission. So you could get the automatic transmission unit, which was a 4-speed. It's GM's. This is where the GM ties in. GM's own Hydromatic, which AMC renamed the Flashaway. You could also get a 3-speed manual that was on the column, 3 on the tree. Interesting. The owner told me that down here, if you can see it, you see that that shaft that's running out of the generator runs the water pump. That's just really interesting. All right, getting in. So these door handles are kind of weird. There's a
you pull up inside the door handle itself to release the door. Look how thick that door is. Beautiful. It's also worth mentioning, every 50s car is like this. Look at this windshield. Look at how the door opens. It's actually curved underneath the windshield base. That's absolutely incredible. Check out this massive door. We're going to start the interior review with talking about the switches on this door. It's got a beautiful armrest. Their claim to fame was with this window, 3 cranks and it's down or up. Check that out. That's actually really impressive. That's a huge window. Look at that. It just goes back up. 3 cranks. And it's at the top. You have a vent window here and it's controlled by this crank. I just have to figure out which way the crank goes. But check that out. So there's the vent window, and it's operated by this crank here. You can crank this to wherever position you want to crank it to. Just take a gander at that. I love the way that they shut too. It doesn't sound like a cheap piece of plastic. It sounds very substantial. Check out those hinges. Look at how all that opens and operates. And the door sills. It's also worth noting that all of these cars, everything that Nash made in the 50s was unibody construction, meaning that the frame and the car is all one unit. It's very common nowadays.
Check out this interior. Nash was a pioneer of the folding down seats into a bed. They were the very first auto manufacturer to offer this feature. I think it started on the Nash Air Flight, but I'm not 100% sure. It might be the Nash Lafayette was the very first car to offer this feature. In the comment section below if you know the right answer. Okay, moving on to the dashboard layout. You have your lights, your vent, your weather eye control right here with the they call it air conditioning, refrigerant, and heater. You got your defrosters, your wipers, and your weather eye controls. That big lever is the emergency brake. You got your high beam switch on the floor. That pedal right there where the clutch should be, that's for your windshield washers. You got your brake and your gas pedal. I love this steering wheel. It's so thin, you could hold it with your finger. There's the drive selector. Notice there's no park. The speedometer is very basic. You only got a fuel gauge and a temperature gauge. Over here, you have, it just says Rambler in the dashboard. That's your thermostat. Next to it's the radio. And you got a beautiful clock. Right below the clock is the cigarette lighter or power port. The glove box is in the center, which is really cool. And that's your ashtray right next to the key.
Okay, moving on to the back door here. This is a really unique design. See how the roof line dips down. And the doors are very angular at the back here. And when you shut them, they actually shut good. They sound good when you shut the door. That's how a car door should sound. If you haven't noticed, the rear door also has a vent window in the back here. So rear passengers have a vent window as well. So that's what the rear vent windows look like when they're open. Look at how awesome that is. Here's your door locks, door handle, and your window. Just like we explained at the front, it's 3 cranks and it's down. Have an ashtray here.
This is what the back seat looks like. It's also worth mentioning that there's a total of 3 ashtrays in this car. 1 in the front, 2 in the back, in each door.
So as I said in previous videos, I'm about the average size kind of guy. I'm 6'2". I got lots of headroom in here. The seats are actually really comfortable. They're of leather of the period. I got lots of leg room, and this seat's not even all the way back. You got nice ambient lighting in here. Getting in and out's easy. There's a lot of styling cues in this car that you see in other vehicles. Like, I posted a video a couple weeks ago saying that every time I see a Nissan Armada, I think of this car because of this roofline slant right here. It's more exaggerated in this than the Nissan Armada, but this is where it started. It started with this car. Actually, it started with the 1955 cross-country Nash wagon, but that was a 1 year only. Those are super rare now. There's no latch to let you in back here. So what you have to do is you have to actually crank down this window. 3 cranks and it's down. Notice that. Look at that. And then once it's cranked down, there's latches on both sides. There's a latch on this side and there's a latch on this side. And to release it, you just pull up and then pull up. I lied. You have to make sure that it goes down. Now it's released. That is a tailgate. The owner has all the vintage luggage that you would get with this type of vehicle. Picnic baskets and what have you. The original spare tire is underneath here. And you just pull up to access it. Just make sure that they're latched in here. You want that to be latched. I thought it worked the opposite way. I love the fact that it has a crank out window in the back. That's awesome, because then you can put it down and ride with the window down in the back. Look how cool that is. Beautiful roof rack up on top here. These are what the keys look like. I don't know if that's the original key, but that's a pretty substantial key. The starting procedure in this is kind of weird. So you put the key in the dash like that, and you step on the brake and you turn the key to put the points on, and then you pull the gear selector towards you.
It's also worth mentioning there is no park selector where the gear shift lever is on the column. You have to put the emergency brake on to hold it, and if you go to shift it, you just want to bump it up. You don't want to pull it towards you to shift, because if you do, you will engage this starter.
Alright, driving the 56 Hudson. This is a treat. Like I was telling you earlier, it seemed like every time I would read the articles or look at the brochure or anything like that, it was like I always thought that this car was way wider. It's very it's not tight compact in here, but
it's sort of a compact car.
Yeah, that's what they said, like that these were like economic.
Yeah, they were for the working people.
Yeah, an economical car, but. Oh, what do they call those now? It's not like a compact car, but like
mid-size.
No, I guess an economy car. You know, like now when you think of an economy car, you think of like a junky kind of Mitsubishi Mirage or something like that. You think of, or a Nissan Versa. You think of something like that, but this is built so much better than those. And it drives really nice. Like a lot nicer than now it makes me want to go find a 59. Like, it makes me want to go and look for a 59 and say, oh yeah, then drive it every day. But yeah, the seats, the driving position, everything in this thing is really nice. I had to move that so you could see my face over the steering wheel, right? So it didn't look like I was eating it or anything. Yeah, it's not rough. It's kind of, it's not overly floaty.
No, but it has the Rambler roll, you know, where you go around the curve.
Yeah.
It rolls with you.
And the road noise isn't bad either. And nothing's like rattling, or in my truck everything's rattling around. It just kind of shakes itself apart, and then you have to sit down and fix it. Yeah. Got to tighten everything up every now and then.
I mean, like mine, it's a truck, but it's like driving a Cadillac.
Yeah.
It's just times have changed back then.
Some more interesting information. I guess this has like a 20-gallon gas tank. The 0 to 60 was 16.2 seconds. It's still faster than a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia to 0 to 60. Those were like 32 seconds. I had one. I know.
Did you do see the Rebel? Anything in your research on the 56 Rebel?
57 Rebel with the 250 V8. Or no, they came out with a 327 V8, and it was. A lot of people think that was the first muscle car.
Yeah, because it was actually faster than the Corvette.
All of them were gray with like this reddish or orange stripe down the side. They were all hard tops. They didn't have pillars. They only made 1,500 of them. Super rare now because they were rare then.
Yeah.
But I saw that they made 20,000 Hudsons in 1956, but that was for everything. That was the Wasp, the Hornet. They rebadged the Metropolitan. They rebadged these. This thing stops good. Mine, you have to pump up the brakes and and shift it. I don't know if you can hear the wipers. They're vacuum operated. That's why they're not very consistent. I love this steering wheel. I love everything about this period. Huge car, tiny steering wheel. Like, not huge. Now we got huge steering wheels and huge cars. Oh, it's past the traffic light. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get to post a final thoughts portion of the video when we got back because it was raining so bad, but I have to say special thanks to Rex for letting me do this. This vehicle's for sale. If you're interested in buying an epic cross-country wagon, you won't find another one for this price. I could give you the seller's information upon request and go from there if you're interested in buying it, but this is an epic wagon. It lives up to all the hype that I read about in the old 50s books and stuff. It rode really well for a vehicle of that magnitude. Also, not sure if it does get 32 miles to the gallon. Even if it got 20 miles to the gallon, that's a really good figure from that time period. I have a friend that has a Chrysler with a Hemi in it, and he claims to get 8 miles to the gallon. So 20 is a whole lot better than 8. But thank you so much for making it to the end. And until next time, toodaloo!